Biker Billy cooks with fire.
All right, welcome to the show. I'm glad you came back and joined this week. I've been thinking about you guys all week while I've been out there riding around on the big bike with my knees in the breeze, thinking about what am I gonna cook. I got a recipe for you that you will enjoy. Yes, it is delicious. It's kind of Middle Eastern. You know, Middle Eastern, it's like that Mediterranean kind of, it's like a big lake in the Middle East, like Cincinnati or Philadelphia or something. All right, so I call it spinach Feta Fingers. Part of the reason I call it fingers is because Dave, the cameraman over here, keeps putting his fingers in the corn chips. Yes, we're using corn chips. So sit right back, grab your corn chips, scoop up some of my quick salsa recipe, check out these messages, and when we come back, we'll cook with fire. All right. All right, got my nice apron on, protecting my good bike and t-shirt, so when I throw food all over the place, I can still take this off and ride home and look good. Now, of course, I don't look that good, but you might look good riding down the road, which I hope is a thing you do every weekend. Get out on a bike and ride. It is the way to be. Now, let's talk about cooking. We're going to use some potatoes, or taters as we call them. I'm using some nice red taters. They're beautiful. You kind of want to pick the ones that are a little on the pinkish side, and you want to avoid ones that have got lots of rubs and bruises. You want that nice, delicious skin. It adds flavor and vitamins. Examine your potato and look for eyes like that. Wonderful. As I bend down here, make the sound go funny, that indentation. You want to take your potato peeler and get rid of the eyes. You don't want them. Them are baby taters. We get rid of those. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to cut our tater up. I said spinach Feta Fingers. This has got potatoes in it. We're going to want to chop our potatoes up so they're about 1/4-inch cubes. So we'll just carefully cut these up. You want them nice and little, because you want them to cook quick. You don't want to mash them. You still want them to have their texture. Potatoes are a challenging food to make hot. Potatoes absorb the heat of the hot peppers. As a matter of fact, if you cook a recipe and you get it too hot, yes, it gives you a case of flame tongue. What can you do? You can take a nice chunk of potato, stick it in the recipe, let it cook for a little while, and that potato will suck up that heat, and that recipe will mellow down some. But there is never anything better than being careful with your hot peppers and making sure you don't overdo it. Now, we'll get these potatoes nice and cubed. Now, if you've ever made mashed potatoes, you know you boil them in water, you get them up nice and soft. We want to get these potatoes just about that soft. What we're going to do, we got them in nice little cubes now. And see how itsy bitsy that is. We're going to put them in our nice big pot. We're going to take some cool water and we are going to cover them up. And what we want to do is just cover them. So I'll take my water, we'll pour that in there. It's a nice deep pot so I can splash around. And if I tilt it so you can see, you can't tell because I tilted the pot. The water is just above the potatoes. We'll let that start heating up. Now, you take an onion, my favorite fruit. What you got to do to measure this, you're using 1 large potato and 1 large onion. If you take a look, these babies are about the same size. Yes, they're fist size, and they're about equal in volume to each other. That's how you balance the flavors of these two. So now, I've been told that I do my onion little thing where I cut and peel my onion so fast that one of the people in the other room said, "My God, this guy must be related to that Benihana or something," whatever that guy goes. No way, Jose. So, we're going to cut this onion real slow. You cut off the root part of the onion, you cut off the top part of the onion, and then what we do is I just give it a little slice. An onion has got layer upon layer, and by slicing it like that, right, what other television cook is going to tell you how to slice an onion? You can very easily peel this, and I can tell you right now as I peel this onion, that aroma is fantastic, and Dave, the cameraman over there who had his fingers in the chip, is beginning to cry. Yes, onions will get in your eyes and make you cry. Now, if you get hot peppers in your eyes, you'll really cry. So, what we're going to do is we're going to slice, and I'm slicing this onion so slow. I'm going to slice that onion, and we're going to cut this onion up until it is the same basic size as the potatoes we have in the pot. Now, we're going to want the water to come to a boil. We're going to lower the heat when it comes to a boil, and we're going to let the potatoes and the onions simmer until the potatoes are tender. Again, just cover those potatoes. Ooh, knock the pot over. Cover those potatoes with just enough water to get over the tops of them, and get the onions in there, and the onions will work their way into the spaces. Get this stirred up, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull out our spinach. Yes, sirree. I've got a 10-ounce package of frozen chopped spinach. Now, what I've done is I've thawed this. You can defrost it in a microwave, or you can basically take the package, dump that little green brick in a bowl, sit it under some saran wrap, and take your bike out for a ride. When you come back, it'll be nicely thawed out. We're also going to use some wonderful feta cheese. That is an 8-ounce, a half-a-pound block of feta cheese, and I'm going to tell you what we're going to do with it, and I'm also going to tell you about some wonderful, wonderful hot peppers. We're using both long, slim red cayenne peppers and serranos, red serranos. Yes, I can hide them on my apron. Now, I'm going to tell you all about that when we come back. Sit back, relax, take the bike out for a short ride, and when we come back, we'll cook with fire. All right. All right. Now, I got my taters and my onions boiling in the water. Take a look at that. Now, after I've got them to a boil, I said before, we'll get them to a boil. We'll simmer them till they're tender. What we're going to do is we've got our spinach, our wonderful 10 ounces of chopped spinach. I drained this. I defrosted it first, because if you don't defrost it, it's kind of hard to get the water out while it's still ice. You could take the liquid that you drain from here and use it to boil the taters in. They could call that stock if this was a gourmet show, or you might get confused and think it was some kind of investment, you know. It's green and they call it stock. Now, we're taking our spinach, and we're going to just dump the spinach in there and give that a quick stir. And while this begins to come up to a nice temperature, we're going to add our spices, because after all, what is cooking without spices? Now, I'm going to start with 1 rounded teaspoon of cumin, or coming and going. It tastes good. Now, 1 rounded teaspoon. This is a wonderful, wonderful spice. You'll find it in a lot of Tex-Mex, Indian, delicious flavors. We're going to take 1 nice, level teaspoon of black pepper. What would life be like without black pepper? We'll sprinkle that in there. We are going to take 1 level teaspoon of salt. Little salt won't hurt you, but if you don't eat salt, if the doctor says lay off the salt, lay off the salt. It gives you more years to ride your bike with. Now, ground ginger, a potentate. I don't know which one it is, but it's one of them royal, delicious spices. We're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger. And then, yes, it wouldn't be Biker Billy Cooks with Fire if we didn't use onion and garlics, right? I did a couple of shows without them, and I was getting mail saying, "Oh my God, what'd you do with Mr. Garlic and Mr. Onion?" So they're back for a repeat appearance. Yes, you don't want it repeating on you, but you want that flavor. 1, 2, keep counting, 3, 4, nice teaspoons of chopped garlic. We'll get this all stirred up. The aromas are fantastic. Now, we are going to let this simmer. We're going to leave it uncovered. If you want to take a look in there, that's just wonderful. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful food, beautiful audience. What more could you ask out of life? Beautiful sunny day to go motorcycling. That's what you can ask for. So you call up the weatherman and say, send me a sunny day. I want to go for a ride. Now, we're going to let this simmer. We're going to reduce the heat a little bit, and we're going to let this simmer until the liquid is almost gone. That's right. We don't want this wet. We don't want to drain out that liquid because it's got our spices in it. Be very, very careful. Be nice to your food and don't burn it to the bottom of your pot. Otherwise, you are going to have to clean up the mess and you won't get to eat something real delicious. Now, we are going to use some eggs in this recipe. We've got eggs here, and I've been talking to these long-distance gourmets from France, and they tell me that you can't. Well, maybe you can. What the heck? I don't know. We're going to use 2 egg yolks. We're going to save the whites. We're going to use the whites for another part of our recipe. And you're going to see, you're going to love this stuff, but we're going to try this French gourmet trick of separating the yolk. So we'll take and carefully crack that egg. Then, let's see if I can get this right. Open it up and tilt it to one side so the yolk stays on the inside. Empty that half and very carefully pour it back and forth. That is how you save a yolk. Now, I'm going to transfer that white away, put the yolk in the bowl, and I might as well be a smart guy. Get rid of this eggshell. Good for your compost heap. And we're going to take another one. Got to crack it on the bowl, and very carefully lose that big piece of shell. Open that up. And you want to try to break that in even halves because it's going to be fun getting that yolk to settle into that small half. See how that fits perfectly? So be careful at the point which you break the egg. Get the yolk over. I broke the yolk. We're going to put that in there. We're going to whip up with our little egg beater. We're going to whip up the yolks of that egg. Get that nice and whipped up. 2 yolks. And we're going to set that aside and get that all worked up, and we set it aside. Now, we'll set the egg whites aside. We're going to use those. We're going to do a little breading and a little frying. That's right, what's cooking with fire without a little frying. Before we do that, I want to talk to you about our peppers. I've got 2 different varieties of wonderful red hot peppers. I've got the Serranos, red Serranos, and red, long, slim red cayennes. Yes, they're red and they're red. They start off green, but they get red. If you want to make this a medium hot, you're going to use the 2 Serranos. If you want to make it a real hot, you'll use the 2 long red cayennes. If you want to be in the middle, look at that, you'll take 1 of each. Now, what I'm going to do is quickly chop off the head of these. I'm going to throw them in the food processor. And you're going to chop them up. Then you're going to take your chunk of feta cheese and you're just going to cut this into a few pieces. And you are going to throw this in the food processor. And you're going to chop that up until it's a nice crumble. This is going to help chop up that pepper real fine. We're going to chop that up. While we chop this up, and this simmers down, you're going to go out for a very, very short ride, or just run out to the garage and make sure your motorcycle is still safely there waiting for you. Now, check out these messages, and when you get back, can you tell me what we're going to do? We'll cook with fire. All right. All right, now, I bet you think I got feta cheese and hot peppers in here. Well, I played a little tricky on you. I got corn chips, yes. This is what you do. when you got corn chips that are too small to eat my quick salsa recipe with, you chop them up and you're going to use them as a breading. Now, I've got olive oil in my pan getting hot. I have my wonderful spinach, potato, and onion with the delicious spices cooked up till the potatoes are tender and there is no liquid left. Now, I'm going to take my feta cheese nicely chopped up into a nice crumble and the hot peppers, and I'm just going to mix that in. Then we've got our 2 egg yolks, and we're just going to scoop them babies in there. The egg yolks are heavy and want to stick to the bowl, so you really got to ring the bell, get them out. Now, this is the fun part. We got our wonderful, beautiful ingredients in there, and we're just going to stir this up. Now, one of the reasons I call this recipe Spinach Feta Fingers is it's got spinach, it's got feta, and you use your fingers. Yes, you're going to use your fingers to prepare it. It's going to end up shaped a little bit like fingers, and when you cook with this hot oil, you keep your fingers out of the oil. I got my finger in there, and whoo, was that hot. Now, what I've got here is I got me the egg whites that I had before, and I took another egg in there and I whipped that up. I've got a plate of whole wheat flour. Nice, wonderful whole wheat flour. And I got my mix, and I got my wonderful corn chips. So if I can get all my little babies here, what we're going to do is we're going to look around. We're going to find ourselves a nice tablespoon. And look how beautiful that stuff looks. We are going to take a tablespoonful of this, place it in the palm of our hands, pat it gently. You don't even have to pat it. Toss it around till it's a little patty. Then we're going to drop it in the flour, and we're going to carefully flip it over. Now, this has been allowed to cool before we did this, and if you let it sit in the fridge for about half an hour, it gets even stiffer. We drop it in there, and we're just going to sort of splash this egg around till the egg is on top of it. We're going to reach in with our fingers, pull that out, and roll that in the corn chips. Now, when you do this kind of stuff, you can get all messy if you don't follow a simple rule. You got one dry hand, and you got one wet hand. And if you look, I got breaded fingers, see? Now, so you don't get your fingers in the hot oil, take a nice big slotted spoon, sit it on top of the slotted spoon, make sure you don't have too many extra chips, and lay that in the oil. Now, it's real simple. This is how you do it again. You take one big tablespoon, put it in your hands, flip it back and forth a couple of times, lay it in the flour, cover it with flour, get nicely covered with whole wheat flour, lay it in the eggs, sort of splash them eggs around a little bit to cover it. It will fall apart if you manhandle it. Lift it out of the eggs, roll it, cover it up. Notice I said roll it, and I kind of covered it. Get that nice, wonderful corn chips on it. Lay it in that slotted spoon, and slide it in that oil, and listen to that sizzle. About the time you get one in, the next one's ready to flip over. These are fantastic. And you make them with your fingers. They're wonderful. They're delicious. I'm going to do this again one more time, mostly so I'll get to eat more of them. Again, if you let it sit in the fridge for a while, it'll firm up some. When you have it and it's cool to room temperature, throw it in that egg after you get it in the flour. When it's at room temperature, it's still going to be a little loose. When it's been in the fridge for about half an hour, it'll firm up. You don't want it really cold. It'll firm up. We throw it in the slotted spoon after we bread it, and into our nice hot oil. I fry with olive oil. It gives them a nice flavor. We turn these over. Now, isn't that beautiful? Take a look at this. This is gorgeous. That is delicious. It is fantastic. It's nice and dark, golden brown. It's wonderful. You're wonderful. Sit back, relax, get ready to eat. Check out these messages, and when we come back, we'll keep on cooking with fire. All right. All right, now check it out. This is what we use to make it hot. We've got our red serranos and our long, slim red cayennes. We use one of each, and that's a medium. 2 long, slim red cayennes, and that's hotter. 2 red serranos, and that's, well, it's not mild, that's for sure, but it's not fire tongue material. Now, our wonderful cooked up filling is delicious. Notice how there is no excess liquid there, and we got nice chunks of potatoes. Now, we fried them up in hot oil, and respect that hot oil because you don't want fried fingers. Check these babies out. They are beautiful. You can fry them up on the light colored side, or you can fry them darker. You can fry them to your heart's content. Now, all right, now look how beautiful this is. We'll take a nice sharp knife. We'll cut it open. You see, got a nice, crispy, crunchy crust. The wonderful, delicious filling inside. This stuff is fantastic, and it's finger food. It's an appetizer. It's a side dish. It's anything you want it to be. Check out this information, and I'll send you the recipe for free. All right. Please subscribe to this podcast for more new and vintage Biker Billy Cooks with Fire. Email me at bikerbilly@bikerbilly.com and ask for the Spinach Feta Fingers recipe. All right, the end of a long day, riding around in the beautiful sunshine. Even if it's rain, we call it liquid sunshine. Get out, ride your bikes. Enjoy the lifestyle. Be safe. And what you're going to do when you come home, you're going to cook with fire, because I want you to eat hot and ride safe. All right. Biker Billy Cooks with Fire is an all right production, copyright 1993 and 2010.